Hi, welcome to NCBOLD. This session is Make and Take Game Time, creating immersive learning experiences for your students. If you would like access to the slides, the bit.ly is down below, bottom left. The way that you type this in is if it's capitalized, you're going to make sure that it's capitalized on your end, and that'll give you access to the slides. You will need them today. So the goal of today is to kind of shift your thinking, help you think more like a game designer and how you can take those elements and put them into your content to really engage students. All right, so I'm going to move forward. Remember, since it's a recording, you can pause at any time, but this is just a little bit about me. So I'm a blended learning coach for Buncombe County Schools. I'm a middle level professor at UNCA. On the side and during the summer, I do educational consulting. I work with organizations like NCAT, other school districts in other states, RISA, places like that, and just help them shift their thinking and help support their teachers so that we can grow our students. I am on Twitter. I always tell my teachers that Twitter is probably the best professional development I've ever received, just because I've met such interesting people from all over the world and learned from them and learned with them. If you're on Twitter, I would love a follow. My tag is up there. My handle is up there. And then at any point, if you'd like to shoot me an email, if you've got questions or you want to share what you've created, please feel free to email me. So like any good educator, we have a learning objective. And our learning objective is to create an immersive learning experience. So if we were together in the classroom face-to-face, I would have you sit together with a group and use this as your first foray into gamification. So this is something that was floating around on Twitter a few years ago. It's called Dicebreaker, and it was created by Stephanie Howell, I believe. And it's really fun. Right now, the way you're seeing it, it could be used as a SEL activity, social emotional learning, which we know right now is a hot topic as we continue to recover from COVID and really get our kids to learn to talk to each other again. So as we think about this, I want you to consider how you could take this activity and repurpose it to use in your content. So the way this works is over here above this is how I roll sticker is a link, and I'm gonna go ahead and click on it. I'll show you what this looks like. So this is digital dice, and I like it because I'll show you. Hopefully you can hear that. It's got sound. So anytime you can engage the senses, it's going to pull kids more into what it is you're doing. I like digital dice because, one, I don't have to pay for all the different dice that I purchase. They're not all over the floor, but you can use regular dice if you want to, or if you have a favorite digital dice, then use that. This is just one that I like. And anytime we look at links, before you plan to use it in your classroom, just make sure that it's unblocked in your district. So I'm going to go back here, and I would put students into groups, and you can play one of two ways, okay? And I always give them a choice, just because we know giving students a choice is going to help them be more vested in what activity we're doing, right? But it's a controlled choice, meaning I'm okay if they choose the first way to play or the second way to play. So the first way to play is designate someone in your group that's the dice roller, okay? And that person's going to roll the dice, and then whatever they land on, whether it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, everyone answers that question, okay? Or you take turns rolling the dice, and you each roll individually. So Kendra may roll the first time, and I may get number 2, so I answer number 2. And then Anna may roll after me, and Anna may get number 5, and she answers number 5. So just, it's either way that they want to play. Okay, so this is how we can use this as an SEL activity. So this would be great for getting to know your students and allowing them to get to know each other at the beginning of the year, okay? But there's also other ways that you can use this. So if you click, let's see. If you click, I believe it's here. Let's see, did I link it? Oh, I didn't link it. All right, so if you click here, it's going to take you to TCEA and their blog. I don't know if you know about TCEA, but they have lots of great posts. You can join for free. They do have events and courses. The Lunch and Learn webinars are free, but they have good content that is valuable for any teacher, no matter what curriculum or what subject or what grade level you teach. So they wrote an article about Dicebreaker, and if you scroll down, you can see different ones, okay? And this is kind of your first make and take. So right here, you can click and get your own copy. When you do that, let me click make a copy and I'll show you. It's going to give you access to all of the different templates, okay? So here's a little intro about it, okay? And then you can see that they've got different colors, okay? They can show you different ways that they did it. So here they made their own dice, okay? This one is Dice Debrief. So I like this because the teacher used this concept, same concept, but the teacher used it as an exit ticket, or think about using this as an entrance ticket. So if you're teaching something, a lesson that connects to the previous day's lesson, you know, we all want to review before we move on to new content, right? Especially if it tacks on to the previous day or builds. So as kids come in, engage them from the start and use Dice Debrief to debrief what they learned the previous day, so you know that they're ready to go into today's lesson. So again, you can use this as an entrance or exit ticket. So this one is a little different. This one uses 2 dice, okay, which is it's fun because you don't want to use the same thing over and over again. The brain likes novelty. So if you've used something, 2 or 3 times, switch it up. Switch the colors, switch how you use it, switch the number of dice that you use. So just change it up, okay? So here's this one, okay? And then, of course, they have themes, all right? So there's Christmas themes, right? Winter themes. Okay, this one is roll a story. So this is good for writing or MLs, right? Okay. This one is good for math, all right? So all of these are yours if you chose make a copy. And so you can just go in here and you can change the question, right? So I'm gonna go back here, exit out, okay? Actually, I want to show you one other thing. Okay. All right, so that's where we were. So if you scroll on down, okay, all right, it gives you some more information. This is how one teacher used it. She posted it on Twitter. She used it for grammar. So this teacher chose something that's typically not fun and added a little piece of gamification to it. and it made it more interesting. So the grid had sentence starters for the subjunctive. Students rolled the dice to figure out which sentence they were going to finish. The dice made it a lot of fun. All right. So again, you might do what this teacher did. Think through your lessons, figure out which one or ones might be a little stale or boring for the kids, and do something like this to spice it up a little bit. So this is a video that you can watch later. It kind of shows it in action. Okay. All right. Now, if you decide to use the dice debrief, they made it really easy today. They have sentence starters and questions on there. So if you can't think of what questions to ask and you want to use it as an exit ticket, okay, here are the questions, and you can just pick and choose from these and just copy and paste, okay? If you choose to use it as an entrance ticket, here are those sentence starters and questions. Again, you can copy and paste, okay? This video is from Stephanie Howell, and she walks you through creating your own, but I say, why create your own if you got the templates? Just use the templates. This is how they used Dicebreaker in PE, which I like this because PE is usually left out sometimes of things like this. So it's really nice to see that they've highlighted PE. And then here are some other questions that you might consider using. Okay, and if you scroll down, there's a little bit more that you can check out. So this is your first make and take, okay? And what I would like for you to do right now is I would like for you to pause for a minute, and I want you to think about your content and how you could repurpose this activity and use it in your classroom for your content, not just SEL, but with your content. So if you would, go ahead and hit pause, and then we'll come back together in just a minute. All right, so coming back together, hopefully you had a chance to just jot down some ideas. I used this in a 5th grade ELA class, and it was during Black History Month. So we read an article from Wonderopolis about Mae Jemison, who is an astronaut, Dr. Mae Jemison, and I put them in pairs. And I had questions for them to answer about the article. I had to be very careful. I didn't want right or wrong questions or text-based questions, because if someone spends number 1, right, they answer the question, and then the next person lands on number 1, the question's already been answered. So what I did was I included more open-ended questions, more critical thinking questions, higher level thinking questions, and that is what I put on the Dicebreaker. So there's lots of different ways that you can use this, and hopefully at least you have one way as the SEL activity, and perhaps you thought of a few other things. But this is a really simple way to add an element of gamification into your classroom with something you're going to do already. So maybe I had a worksheet that I do already. I'm going to change it up just a little bit, add the dice to it, make it more like a game, and there we go. It's a little more engaging for students. So as we delve into gamification, there's 2 big pieces of vocabulary that we need to consider. So the first piece of terminology or vocabulary is gamification. And gamification is what we just did. It's taking those game elements, whether it be a timer, it be dice, it be a coin, a game board of sorts, okay? And applying those elements to a non-game setting. Okay, so think about your professional development. So some of you might be Pear Deck educators, certified educators, or Pear Deck coaches, or Kahoot certified, or Canvas certified, okay? Any type of training that is non-gamified, but you might have earned a badge for, that badge is an example of gamification. Okay, so again, it's adding elements of game design to a non-game setting like instruction or training. Okay, so the other piece of that is game-based learning. This is where the learning occurs through the gameplay. This is stuff we've been doing for years. So it's like when we play Jeopardy in the class as a review, or maybe we play another game like Kahoot or Quizzes or Look It. That is game-based learning, okay? So these are some examples. So examples of gamification. So badges, right? We just talked about that. And what is the purpose of the badge? It's bragging rights, just like with a game, right? I completed this. I'm an expert at this. I'm knowledgeable at this. But badges are an example of gamification. So point systems, that's clear. We know that. We've been doing that for years. Another example is leaderboards. I want to say very briefly a quick word about leaderboards. When I usually teach this face-to-face, I survey my room and I say, how many of you are motivated by leaderboards? And out of 10 people, maybe 4 people raise their hands, maybe 5. Sometimes it's half, okay, but not always. Usually it's a little bit less. I say that for you to understand that not every student is going to be motivated by a leaderboard, okay? So for me, I am. When I play a game online, I like to move up the leaderboard. That motivates me. If I'm at the very bottom, I'm going to work really hard to move up and get towards the top. My husband is totally different. He's pretty laid back. And if he's at the bottom, his thought process is, I'm at the bottom. Why work hard to get to the top, right? It's going to take forever and a lot of work, okay? So he's just different, and you've got kids in your class that are like that. So I'm not saying don't use leaderboards. What I'm saying is you can do it different ways. For instance, you can use a leaderboard and give everyone like an avatar, okay? And nobody knows who's who. So maybe I'm Superwoman and someone else is Batman, right? That way, no one knows who's at the bottom except the people who are that person. Another way of doing it, you could also do that with numbers. I know student numbers, or you assign kids numbers, that will work too. Another way to do it is just do a leaderboard for the top 3, okay? And that way, nobody sees who's at the bottom, just who's at the top. So that's something to think about, all right? So those are some examples of gamification. The other side of this is game-based learning. These are things like educational board games, okay? Whole class games like Jeopardy, like we talked about. Immersive experiences like Minecraft, where playing the game is the learning, okay? Now, there are probably lots of other things that you can add to the list. I would like for you to pause where you are and just see if you can add some more ideas to these 2 camps, gamification and game-based learning. All right, so hopefully you added a few things to this list. Before we move on, I do want to say very quickly about Minecraft. If you have access to Minecraft in your district, you need to check out the website Minecraft Education. They have lots of searchable or filterable, if that's a word, database where you can put in your what you teach, grade level, and standards, and you can find pre-built lessons with pre-built worlds that are already there. So we have we have had Minecraft in our district for a few years, and I don't play it very often, but I had a teacher who wanted to use it in her math class to teach fractions, and so I went in there with kind of a general understanding of how it worked. But the kids were so much more of an expert with Minecraft, and your kids will be too. So I got them started, and then I came to something that I didn't know how to do. And so I said, hey, does anyone know how to do this? This one kid in her class who really isn't very engaged, he plugged up to the smart board and showed everyone how to do this, and he was the expert for the day. But when I told those kids, when I walked in and we told them that we were going to learn fractions through Minecraft, you would have thought like Santa Claus had walked into the elementary classroom. They were stoked. So just adding that little bit of novelty, something new, in that gamified experience really increased the engagement for learning fractions that day. So I say that for you to understand that you don't have to be the expert. If you don't know how to do something, let your students show you, because I bet they know how to do it, or both of you have enough knowledge to figure it out together. All right, so this is our agenda. So we talked about what gamification is and a little bit of the vocabulary. You already have a make and take that you can use in your classroom. We're going to quickly talk about the benefits of using gamification in your classroom. If we were face-to-face, we would do a station rotation discussion, or if we were live, we would get into breakout rooms and do it. But I'm going to give you some time to kind of consider the topics in each station. Then we're going to move into Google Slides Learning Adventure, and I'm going to show you how to create one of these gamified experiences for your students, and then give you some time to plan and build, show you where you can find assistance with the tech skills, and then just leave you with some resources. So that's kind of where we're headed. So quickly, these are some benefits of gamification. It increases the levels of engagement in the classroom. It helps with knowledge absorption and retention, because with games, you practice over and over again. You're engaged and you're willing to fail forward and try again. So because you're willing to try again and again, you're going to be absorbing that information better. Depending on the game, it can give learners the opportunity to see real-world applications. And then it just enhances that overall learning experience for all age groups, because it's fun, right? They're enjoying themselves. And this statistic up top, 67% of students agree that gamified learning is both more engaging and motivating than traditional classes. And when I've experienced professional development that is gamified, I know that I enjoy it a lot more, and time seems to go past a lot quicker than if it was just regular professional development. So really the big why is this. When COVID hit, we all said that engagement has dissipated. And so we're all, as educators, looking for ways to increase engagement and motivate students to put forth effort so that they can learn more. And so gamification is one of the answers to do this. So if you would, grab something to write with, and grab a sticky note or a piece of paper. And what we're going to do is we're going to watch this video. So this video is a few years old, but it is an advertisement for Coke Zero. And now that we talked a little bit about gamification, I want you to jot down elements of gamification that you see used in this ad, okay? And then we're going to talk about it briefly. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hit play. If for whatever reason you can't hear it, you can always pause me and open it up on your end. All right. So let's see what you got. Okay. So first off, it was personalized. I don't know if you caught that or not, but do you remember at the very beginning, they had to input their name? By doing so, the lady in the red dress, she was calling them by name. Okay. So one of the elements of gamification is being able to personalize it, especially with like video games or even arcade games. So think about, if you're not a video game player, think about arcades. Okay, all of us have been to arcades at least once or twice, especially maybe when we were kids. But many times, like I'm thinking about an old racing game, they don't just assign you a car, you get to choose your car. Sometimes you get to build your car, right? You get to personalize it so that you feel like you're more invested in the experience, right? On video games, you get to choose your avatar. You get to choose the color of the hair, what they're wearing, things like that. So, or at the very least, you put your name in there, okay? But it's some way the game is personalized, all right? So personalized should be the first thing. The second thing that you should have noticed is the music. Think how different this would feel if there was no music, or if the music was different, okay, a different type of music, right? The music added that sense of urgency to the experience for them, right? So music is invoking those senses. So anytime we can invoke the senses, the more vested the person will be in the experience, okay? There were obstacles, right? Okay. So it was, let's see, getting around the dogs, right? The joggers were in the way, going up the different levels, which levels is another one. Okay. So in video games, you've got different levels. Here, you had different physical levels. They went up and down the stairs, right? But they had different elements or different experience levels of obstacles, right? There was a quest, right? They got a choice. That's another one. They got a choice. They did not have to participate at all, but they chose to, right? They chose to participate in the quest, which was getting the reward. Okay, so that's another one. Reward. There was some sort of prize or reward at the end. Okay, there was timer, and there wasn't just one timer. There were timers all throughout, so the players knew exactly how much time they had left, right? So a timer. There was a final challenge, okay, which was kind of bigger than the others, and they had to sing the Bond tune, right? And that final challenge had some sort of social aspect. And in this case, the social aspect was people were singing together. So these are the big things that hopefully you jotted down, and you may have one or two things more than I do. I'm always amazed when I teach this, what other things people think of that maybe I haven't, okay? All right, so what we're doing is we're just expanding our understanding of elements of gamification so we can use these elements in our classroom to get students motivated and engaged in our content. So again, if we were face-to-face, we'd be moving, but since we aren't, I'm going to walk you through each of these stations and give you time to think and jot down your ideas, okay? So again, you'll need something to write with and a piece of paper. All right, so this first one, you're gonna need your phone, okay? This is app analysis. And the purpose of this activity really is to get you to realize how gamified your life already is, okay? So I want you to look at your phone. Open it up to the different apps that you have. Which apps do you use the most? Maybe it's a social media app, but maybe it's not. It does not have to be social media, okay? But I want you to look at several apps that you use pretty regularly. And I want you to look for elements of gamification that are used in your favorite apps, okay? So that's the first thing. The second thing is, how do these game elements affect your use of that app, okay? So I'm going to give you just a second. I'm going to pause. And I want you to pause and look at those apps and jot down your ideas. All right, so hopefully that gave you a little bit of time to kind of think through. Let me make sure everything's recording. Yes. All right, so hopefully you looked at those apps. Now I'm going to share a few things that I discovered when I started looking at my apps. So one of the things that I use, one of the apps I use quite a bit is Peloton. I use that pretty much every day. And one of the cool things that I like about it that motivates me, that is a gamification element, is a streak. And Snapchat does this too, my daughter told me. So I can quickly see when I open it up, it says welcome back, and it has my handle, and it'll say you have and then it gives me a number, week, streak, going. So it says you have a 97-week streak going. Sorry, that's hard to say. Or you have a 7-day streak going. Okay, it just keeps up with how many days or how many weeks you can continually work out. And then underneath that, it's got circles with Monday through Sunday on it. And for every day I've worked out, it's got a check mark. So I can quickly see that. One of the other things that's really motivating for me is it'll have a calendar of the last 30 days, and it'll make the numbers blue on the days that I've worked out, and it compares this 30 days to the previous 30 days, and it'll say, Kendra, you've worked out 2 days more this 30 days, or Kendra, you've worked out 1 day less than the last 30 days. So, and for me, that's pretty motivating, okay? The other thing that it allows me to do that is an element of gamification is when I work out, or I'll choose a workout, it'll tell me if one of my other friends is working out in that same group. So that is that social aspect as well. The other thing this one does is it gives me badges. So I earn badges for lots of different things. Like if I take so many workouts, maybe walking workouts or running workouts. It also has challenges. So like right now, I'm signed up for that August activity challenge, and I've got 4 days left until I get the gold badge. So all of those are different types of gamification elements that apps use to hook you and get you to open it and use it again and again and again. So hopefully you've discovered some of the apps that you use have elements of gamification in them as well. Okay. If you think about your life, think about places that you shop. Like we have a grocery store here called Ingles, and every time I buy something, those points are added to like their gas card. And after I accumulate so many points, I get so much money off my tank of gas, right? So that encourages me to buy more at Ingles, right? Shop more there so that I can save money at the gas tank. So, all right, so let's move on to the next station. So this one is called Get Creative. So this is thinking about some of those old school classic games, and I've got some listed here, and thinking about how you could repurpose some of these games into education games, okay? If there are others that are not listed here that you can think of, list them. But I've seen Uno repurposed, Monopoly, Dominoes, Jenga, and dice games. So I'm going to pause here and let you jot down your ideas. Please pause. All right, so hopefully that was enough time for you to kind of think through this. One of the ways that I've seen Jenga used is you can buy, just so you know, you can buy the generic Jenga at, I think it's Dollar Tree, but it's called Tumbling Towers and it's small. And you can buy them colored, which I would prefer, or you could use little stickers and put different stickers on each Jenga. If you use them colored, when the kids choose, let's say, blue, then it corresponds to a list of questions that you have, and the questions that are labeled blue, those are the ones they answer. Okay, so that might be one way that you can repurpose something like Jenga. There are lots of different ways that you can repurpose Uno and Monopoly and Dominoes, and I've got some resources at the end of this that will help you kind of think through that. All right, the next station is called Gamer Nation. This one is really thinking about video games, okay? So you can think about our Atari games if you're old school like me. You can think about Nintendo arcade games, Xbox, Wii, or even those iPhone games that many of us play. So what were or are your favorite video games? Okay. What elements make them fun and engaging? What elements make you want to play them again and again? And then once you have those ideas or those questions answered, how can you shift those ideas into use those same elements into our lesson design? Okay, so that's the purpose of this, is to think about what makes these video games engaging, what makes kids want to play over and over and fail forward and try again, and then taking those same ideas and shifting them into our lesson design. All right, so again, I want you to pause and I want you to just think through this and jot down some ideas, and I'm going to pause on my end. Okay, so hopefully you've had some time to think about this. So I always joke that one of my favorite games is an Atari game called Frogger. It's probably the first video game I think I ever played. But then as I got older, one of the games that I like is the classic Mario Brother game. Things that made them fun. The music always made it engaging and fun. The graphics, but the challenges, I think it's the challenge, at least for me, that made it a lot of fun. The challenges were difficult, but they weren't overly difficult that I would just give up immediately, right? And so I would try it the first time and maybe fail, right? But I was motivated enough to try again and use the strategies and things that I learned the first time to get a little bit further the second time. And then once I got a little further, I would repeat that over and over again, right? So it also wasn't too easy, right? If it was too easy, then what's the point of playing? So for me, and everyone's different, some people are going to say it's a social aspect. I mean, there's lots of different things that make video games fun. But the key is to just think like a game designer and say, okay, what makes this fun? And then how can I take those elements and use them when I design lessons? It's shifting our vocabulary, okay? And it's shifting our thinking. So when we create a lesson, we're not just creating a lesson plan, we're creating an experience. And that's how we have to think about it. Because when they create video games or even games, it's an experience for students, right? Think about the video ad that we watched for Coke. It was an experience. That's something that those people will never forget, right? But they worked very hard to make it an experience. You know, they included the music, they included thoughtful obstacles. So shifting your mindset from just, I'm going to create a lesson plan, to I'm going to create an experience for my students, okay? And then maybe also shifting your vocabulary. So instead of calling it an assignment, you could call it a challenge or a quest, right? So shifting that vocabulary there. So the last one, it kind of feeds into what I was just talking about. So a lot of us, or many of us, have seen the Floor is Lava TV show. If you haven't, I encourage you to Google it, or see if it's still playing on cable or Netflix or wherever you watch TV. But essentially, the premise is, in teams, the teams have to get to an area in the room to get a prize, right? They have to get from one area to the next, but they can't touch the floor. The floor is made of lava. So there's different things that they have to jump on and different places they can't touch, all right? So this teacher decided to take his or her lesson content and transform the room into a giant game of the Floor is Lava. All right. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to read through how this teacher did that. And then they have some links there where you can download some free getting started activities. And then if you've got a buddy or you are a PE teacher, this is how you can use this same activity in PE. All right. So go ahead and pause me and then take a few minutes to read through the Floor is Lava. All right, so wasn't that fun? I mean, can you imagine going into your staff development meeting and the whole room is transformed into a giant The Floor is Lava game? Just the novelty of this, the kids would never forget the lesson that you teach them. This might seem like a lot of work, and it probably is in the beginning, right? So could you partner with somebody like a fellow teacher or your media coordinator and do this in the library, or even your PE teacher and do it in the gym? Think how you could work together with someone else to create this experience for your students, all right? I just can imagine the joy on your students' faces as they walk into your room that day. Whoops.
All right, so this is...
All right, so I'm going to be very transparent and say I am not a big gamer, but I am a mom and I am an educator. During COVID, I had an experience that kind of led me on the journey of creating, of writing this article for Edutopia, creating Google Slides, Learning Adventures, and really delving into gamification and sharing with other educators. My daughter was in middle school and she stayed home during COVID. So she was a remote learner. And so she did pretty much everything online. And she's a really good student, but it just wasn't her cup of tea. She had a really hard time focusing and concentrating, and in fact, I had to go sit next to her some of the days just to help her get through the day. But something interesting happened. As soon as she finished for the day and closed her computer, the first thing she did was pull out her phone and open this app called Roblox. Roblox, if you're not familiar, is a free app, and it's like an immersive gamified experience. So within this gaming app, there are lots of different games that kids can play, and they're immersive worlds, all right? And inside those worlds, you can connect with other friends. So she had a friend in Charlotte, and they would both join Roblox at the same time. And they played this game. It was a simulation of high school, which I think is hilarious. And you get a schedule and you go to different classes. And one of the things that she was doing to earn points so that she could buy different clothes for her avatar was she was willingly taking a math quiz. And if she does well on it, she gets those points and then she can buy clothes for her avatar. My daughter had just complained about doing math all day long. In fact, I had to go sit next to her, and now she's willingly doing it. But it's because it was in a gaming experience and gaming atmosphere, that she was willing to do it. And when I saw that, I was like, wait a minute. We have got, as educators, to take some of these ideas from gamified experiences in games and video games and use them to pull our kids into our content, okay? So one of these statistics that I thought was super interesting says students with some sort of gamification elements score 14% higher than same age peers who do not. So gamification really does motivate students to learn. So as I watched her and as I started thinking about building some sort of gamified experience, these are my guiding questions. So I noticed that there was a social aspect to Roblox, and she could chat with her friend from Charlotte, and they could be in the same world together and help each other. So I wanted to look for areas that I could add a social aspect to my lesson, okay? I also noticed that there was some sort of competition either with others or with myself, right? So in creating gamified experiences, how can we add some sort of competition? And some people don't like competing with other people, right? That is not motivating for them at all. So this is where knowing your students comes into play. Some students might really be motivated to compete against themselves from yesterday, right? I also noticed that they could track progress, so they could see how they progress throughout the game. Another aspect that I observed was that they had choices, okay? Games always give you choices, okay? Nobody likes a forced decision on them. So there's different pathways that you can take. They're controlled pathways, right? Which means that it's okay if they choose this pathway or this pathway. And there's not too many choices where it's overwhelming or paralyzing. But you have to have some choices to motivate students. All right, so where can I add choices? And then how can I add a sense of adventure or mystery to my lesson? Can I create some sort of emotional connection with images, music, adding sensory details, or some sort of compelling narrative? All right, so after watching my daughter struggle during remote school and then surprisingly be super engaged after school, I created what I call Google Slides Adventures. So I wanted to use a tool that was free for teachers and create a gamified experience for students. So these are just examples. I totally believe that other people can create a much better experience than I can, but this will at least get you started, okay? So I'm going to click on this one, okay? This one is called Trekking Everest, all right? And all of them are really meant to help build background knowledge, okay? We know that building background knowledge is one of the factors that really influences students' reading achievement. And so this one was used with the book Peak, all right, in middle grades. So I started with this beautiful image. It kind of pulls you in. It's not a clip art, it's a real image. And if you'll listen, I included sound so that it is using that sensory detail to pull kids in, and it feels more like a game or something new, because remember, the brain likes novelty. The way that I did this was every kid would get their own copy of this, okay? And they would view it in full screen, like presentation mode, but if they needed to type, they would hit escape and then type inside the box, and then go back to full screen presentation mode. I've done this in lots of classes, and I just tell students that from the start, and they're totally fine doing that. So that's kind of how I did it. Of course, you are welcome to take and do however you feel fits your students and your needs. So I started with directions, and they're icon based, just like video games. Okay. So as kids go along and they, the experience, if they see the green circle, they know that is a 360 alert. That's a 360 immersive video that if they've got touch screen, they can touch their screen and move around, and it feels more game-like. I also like to incorporate global education into pretty much everything I do. I think it's an important aspect that we teach our students. And so later on, I'll show you where you can find these 360 videos. If students see the link, it links outside to something else. And then for this one, the image of the tent takes you back to the progression slide so that you can see your progress. All right? So I start with a pre-assessment. So this is just something I would normally do. It's a KWL chart. And as you look through these activities, these are things I normally would do in class if I'm teaching this novel or getting kids ready to teach this novel or read this novel. I would do these activities anyway. But because I packaged them differently and they're in a gamified experience, students respond to them differently. Okay, so again, students would fill out this KWL chart, and when they're ready, they would click the tent, and it takes them here. Okay, it takes them back to the progression slide. So this is where we were. All right, their quest is to get to this top of the mountain. So this is the next activity. Okay, so this links them out. All right, they answer their questions using the website that this link takes them to, and then they go back. This is the 360 alert, okay? Gives them a little bit of instructions here, and I'll show you what this is like. Can make it full screen. And now I can move around.
This is a landfill in the Sagarmatha National Park, home to the world's tallest peak, Mount Everest. Members of the Sagarmatha Pollution Control Committee, or SPCC, collect and sort trash all the way up to Everest Base Camp.
All right, so again, one student's watched that, and it's very short, okay? I kept these 360s as short as I could, okay? I went back, all right? I think I'm here. Yes, and so now they have to do some writing. Again, I would have them do this in class, but because it's packaged different, they're more engaged. I give them a little bit of direction here, okay? All right. Now this takes them to a link, okay? This takes them to Google Maps where they can experience Everest in 360, okay? So here, and now I can move around and I can really see what it looks like at the base camp of Everest. So now when I'm reading about it in the book, I have a good image, okay? Not just a picture, but an experience that I can use to make meaning, okay? All right, so now I'm gonna go back here, all right? This gives them a little bit of directions. It's something a little different, okay? Different activity. And then they get to the top, and then they go back to the pre-assessment. And now they add their knowledge that they have learned, okay? All right, so that is the very first one I created. So this is the second one. This is discovering the ancient pyramids, and then this one is science. It's Galapagos Islands. So this one is a little more advanced. I added Easter eggs inside, and that's a gaming term to describe hidden elements, all right? I don't tell the kids about it. Some of them just find it, and it's just fun to find them, okay? All right, so take a few minutes and explore these, all right? And as you explore them, jot down ideas. What's going through your head? How would you change these? What are you thinking? What kind of things can you create? All right, so take a minute and pause and just look. All right, so hopefully you have some ideas going around in your head of how you could create something similar for your content, okay? Again, these are not activities that are new. They're activities that I've always done in class. I just package them differently. Again, we're shifting the way that we think about lesson planning, and we want to create an experience for our students, okay? And a good analogy is like when you go to the grocery store and you're walking down the aisle of cereal, right? There's so many of them, right? Which ones do you or which ones do your kids stop and look at? Okay, it's the ones that are bright, all right? They're colorful. They've got engaging images on it. They've got font that is big and bold, right? That's how you want to think about packaging your lesson plans and your activities. What can you include that's going to pull your students in? All right, so now we're shifting to planning and to thinking about it, okay? So this is how I got started, all right? I started with my standards, of course, like every good teacher does. What standards do you want your kids to master, okay? What is your topic that you're gonna focus on in your lesson design? And then what are your outcomes and objectives, all right? So those are the first three. And then when you're thinking about the activities that your students do, these are the things that I would consider. Are there things that students can read? Are there things that students can write about? Okay, are they thinking in these activities? Is there a way that you can add movement? Okay, mine did not have movement because when I created these, we were all remote. But for one of your activities, you could have the directions on the screen, or where they put the answers, right? But maybe it's a station that they go to in your room, okay? It doesn't all have to be on the computer. And the last one, is there a place for them to practice their speaking and listening? Maybe that's adding in where they record a video using something like Microsoft Flip, okay? So just try to have variety. So with the global piece, there are two ways that you can add, okay? The first one is you can go to this link. Actually, let me do this. And this will take you to Google Maps, and it'll take you to Google Street View, okay? These are all the different locations that you can visit. So here's Everest Base Camp, okay? These are very well done, all right? You can also view them like this as a list, okay, if you prefer. These are well done, but they link out, okay? So kids have to go out of the Google Slides to see this. And that's okay, but what I really like, let me exit out of this. What I really like is to use YouTube and use the 360 videos there. So let me show you. I'm gonna go to YouTube. And so say I'm searching for, let's do Everest, okay? I'm gonna type that in, okay? And then I'm gonna hit enter. Okay. And right here, I have filter, okay? And this is where I can search for a 360 video. So all of these are 360s, okay? These can be embedded just like a video in Google Slides, okay? So for instance,
It's time to improve your writing game.
First, make sure you watch these, okay? But if they work, you would hit share, you would copy this, and then in your slideshow, let me go to this one. You would go to insert video, and then you would put that link there, and it embeds it directly into the slideshow. So I like those better if I can find the right thing. So those are two ways that you can find that content. Okay. These are some considerations for you to think through, all right? Now, I've linked a storyboard here, and that's how I would encourage you to get started, is I would storyboard or plan out what each slide has on it, so that before I started building, everything was really clear, okay? And I knew what was going to go where, and I knew the progression, okay? The next step, once you've storyboarded, is to create, okay? And I had someone ask me to write down all the, the directions, and there's really only 8 steps to create, okay? So you're going to create 2 slideshows. You're going to create a teacher slideshow and a student slideshow. You're going to first work with the teacher slideshow, and on that slideshow, that Google Slides, you're going to put everything on there that you want to be in the background and not movable by students, okay? So for instance, directions, images, things like that, okay? Once you have all that done, then you're going to download each of those slides as a PNG, and you're going to upload each of those slides to the student slides as the background image, okay? And that way it's the background image. The students can't mess with it. They can't edit anything, okay? After you do that, you're going to add transparent layers on top of images and words that you want to be clickable and linked to other slides. So an example of this was my progression slide in the Everest example with the tents, okay? Those tents had a transparent layer on top, and they linked to other slides, all right? If you want to make it immersive, you can add sound bites to the opening slide that can help create that video game feel. And I used Pixabay to do that, okay? If you want to, you can hide all the slides except the intro, directions, and progression slide, so students don't see these as they click through. Once it's created, I would make sure I shared it in my LMS, like Google Classroom, and make a copy for each student. You can do the same thing on Canvas, just make sure that each student gets their own copy. And just remember, not everything has to be digital. Some things can have the directions on the slide, but students are actually doing the activity in the classroom. So be creative with these, all right? Now, the tech seems challenging, but it's really not. And I have videos right here for each of the tech skills that you'll need to create one of these Google Slide adventures. So you can watch any of these and learn how to do that tech skill, okay?
In Google,
this is the last little piece of information. There's lots of information right now coming out about gamification and using it in the education realm. Some of these facts are really interesting that you might want to kind of look through. But the last thing that I want to leave you with is Michael Matera. You can find him on YouTube and Twitter as Mr. Matera, but he's written a lot of books about gamification, and he's an educator. I think he teaches middle school. But what he says is do the unexpected. So again, adding those gamified elements to your classroom doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to take a lot of work. You can start with something like the dice breaker that we looked at the very beginning of our time together. You can use Jenga in a different way, but just remember, the brain likes novelty. It likes newness. It likes unexpected things, right? Because it remembers it. So I'm going to let him talk to you for a few minutes as our last little piece together, and hopefully it inspires you to do something unexpected this school year. Start with one thing, one lesson, one unit, and see where that leaves you.
Everyone, I wanted to have a little chat about the importance of the unexpected. This is a skill. This is a thing that I choose to build into not only my lessons, but into my day as a middle school teacher. I find it incredibly important to deliver on the unexpected. So, what does that mean? How does that play out? Well, one, I'm in the middle of an activity that no way did kids expect. We're doing this simulation in which they are actually captains of these boats, and we get into this thing. They like have to row their boats. Got to do these things. It goes with us studying the Battle of Salamis. It's this big naval battle, right? That's unexpected, but it's content unexpected. But one of my true favorites is just when it's random unexpected, right? And that could be as simple as a time in the lunchroom, like whether you are having some fun with students and have interesting conversations or inside jokes with somebody. There's so many ways to deliver on the unexpected. And I want to challenge you to think about ways in which you could be unexpected with your students. So here's my challenge to you, and I would love it if down below you post in the comments your unexpected moments with students. Let's together share out how we were unexpected. So after you've listened to this video and you choose to tackle that unexpectedness with your students, I want you to come back to this video. I know that's asking a lot in this crazy world, but what we ultimately want to all be is intentional. And so I want you to come back here and post down below how you were unexpected with your students, and maybe reflect on it. Share out like the moment, what was created there. So here's my challenge. I would love it if you can do any unexpected you want, but if you're sitting here thinking, I can't think of a way to be unexpected with my kids, here's one that I'm going to give you. Teach outside your class. Choose one lesson, choose one activity, choose one thing. Not that you need to be out for that lesson, right? Don't make it like a science class that needs to go out in the woods and like look at trees. That would be expected of a science class. I'm talking about just for no reason at all, do your lecture, do your discussion, do your group work outside your classroom for once. Tell them to grab their notebooks if they need it. Grab your resources that you need. If you're a person that uses a board a lot, grab a big sheet of paper. Use one of those big Post-it note paper things, right? Whatever, bring a marker, tell a story. Just do the unexpected, if even for a moment. And then reflect on that. Reflect on how that changed the experience for your students and how that changed the experience for yourself. And absolutely, I would love to hear from you how that felt for you. Because in my teaching, in my experience for the years and years that I've done it, it is in the moments that we change the expectation that we start to change the relationships with students. It starts to be joy-filled. It starts to be interesting, intriguing. They come to class and unknowing what to expect. They come to your lunch table. They say hi to you in the hall because you have made a difference in their life. And yes, of course, we all are making an academic difference in their life. But it's about making that connection with an adult, with a student. That is a difference that not everyone makes. And I want you, the person that listens to this channel, to make that kind of difference. So if you could, come back and say that. As always, if you could like and subscribe this video, share this video out with others, have them join you in on this challenge to sort of be a little different and think a little different. Love to see that. All right, everybody, I hope this video was helpful for you. I hope you come back and learn some more. I hope you share out, but also I hope you have a good day.
All right, so that's my challenge to you is do the unexpected. Take one thing that you learned today and utilize it this year in your classroom. So again, thanks for being here and reach out if I can help you. All right, happy gaming.